everybody, let's talk about how to demonstrate your value in the hiring process. Okay, I get people that say, recruiters don't believe me. I go to a job interview and I try to explain the things on my resume, the skills that I have and the abilities I have. And the recurring theme is that the interviewer does not seem to believe me. They question whether I have these skills, and it's almost like they're accusing me of making them up. And I don't get callbacks, and I don't understand this process. I'm at an impasse. What do I do? So let's talk about this. Somebody who contacted me recently about this was coming from a situation where they had been in a family business for many years, and they had ran the business successfully, but they were in a small town and they wanted to get a more career type job in a larger city after having all this homespun experience in the family business and growing the business and supervising people and all this kind of stuff. And the recurring theme they had was that they went to interviews and recruiters don't believe that they have the skills they say they have. And let's talk about this. So in the hiring process, from the beginning to end, to get an interview, the conventional wisdom is that you do this with your resume or your job application, and you do it by essentially echoing the requirements that they're looking for the job. So if they're looking for a collection of things, you basically send them a resume that has those exact things on there. And if you have a very tight match, they will select you. That's the conventional wisdom. And of course, that depends on how much competition you have. So that governs how closely it has to match for them to select you for an interview. So that's kind of something that a lot of people have cracked, and this particular person in this case has cracked. They get an interview. Now, how do you get the recruiter to believe you have the skills that you say you have? Listen, there's two bits of advice that I can give you for this. And the first thing you would do is, everybody heard the expression show, don't tell, right? Well, that's something that you can employ here, okay? A lot of times in job interviews, everybody thinks that you're going there to talk about your skills, okay? And you are, but what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the skills that the interviewer is looking for are things that you're not talking about. It's things you are demonstrating, okay? So if you go to the interview and your appearance is appropriate, you have the right attire, you have the right grooming, you look the part, okay? It starts with that. Then you demonstrate your professionalism, your communication skills, and perhaps negotiation skills by talking to the interviewer in the job interview. Okay, you don't need to explain you have good communication skills if you're demonstrating it. Okay, they may decide to ask more hostile questions, more trick questions, or they may decide to challenge you on something just to see how you behave, and you are demonstrating your abilities right there. If there's a technical person in the interview that might ask you technical related questions, your ability to answer them demonstrates your technical knowledge right there. Okay, so it's not all about describing your skills, it's about demonstrating things. Now, in the case of somebody who has worked in the family business and as a result can't provide, shall we say, high quality references from a employer that would be well known, or anything like that, because it's all based in a small company or even a startup or in a family business. In that case, you might have to go a step further. Okay, so for example, one of the most obvious things that you could do, apart from giving actual examples of cases where you have demonstrated what they're asking for, is I would even go as far as to recommend visual aids. Okay, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you can produce a picture, a photograph saying, okay, here is the business, here was the scale of it at the beginning, and then here's the before shot, and then here's the after shot. This is after I spent 3 years there changing this department, launching this product, overhauling this department, whatever it is. You know, they can see it. They can see the scale of things. It goes a long way to convincing somebody that you're not making the whole story up. You didn't just invent this job and put it on your resume and say you have it. No, here are the skills that you can demonstrate. And that can help a lot. It doesn't help in every case, but it can help in certain situations to get a bit more weight behind what you're saying. An obvious example for something like this would be in sales and marketing. If you're trying to demonstrate that you achieved certain sales numbers or certain performance, or you grew a business, or you grew an operation, or whatever it was, you can show them rather than explain it. Show, don't tell. Okay, so that can sometimes help, depending on what we're talking about in your specific situation. Now, the other part of this, okay, and this is something that I've talked about on this channel on occasion, okay, is the method you're going through to get the job. Now, as I mentioned many times before, most people don't get jobs by responding cold to job ads. Instead, they get jobs through networking, okay? Now, the situation that everybody thinks of when you mention networking is when you ask a friend or an acquaintance, or I suppose even a family member, although I don't recommend that, to hire you, to put in a good word for you and get you hired at the organization that they're a part of. Okay, so that's kind of the thing that leaps to mind when you say networking. That's really not how a lot of people get a job through networking, but that's the most obvious example. Okay, now imagine that case. Okay, you've got a friend that works in a company and you say, can you put in a good word for me? I'd like to work where you are if you guys have an opening. And they say, sure, yeah, I believe we're hiring. I think my boss would know more about that. I will talk to them and see if I can get you an interview, see if I can get them to consider you. Okay, if you can give me a resume or something. So you do this. Now, why do they give you the interview? Well, they give you the interview probably because it seems like you fulfill the basic requirements of the job, okay? But beyond that, you've got somebody vouching for you, okay? They are essentially giving you a personal recommendation, and they're saying to their boss or the decision maker at that organization, look, you know, you trust me. You've hired me. I've worked here for a while. You know I do good work. You know that I have integrity, and I'm not lying to your face when I say stuff like this. I believe that this acquaintance of mine would be a good candidate for this role. They could do it. Okay, I think you should consider them. So because the employer trusts them, they'll take you at face value. Okay, that's the power of a personal recommendation. Okay, so if you indeed have the skills and someone that they trust is vouching for your character and all your soft skills, like your work ethic and your integrity and all that, that makes you a lower risk candidate than if they were just to interview somebody off the street, okay, who they don't know. So that's the power of networking, right? You take advantage of that personal recommendation. All of a sudden, they're treating you differently than if they were interviewing somebody cold off the street that they don't know. Okay, when you say something, they would tend to believe you more and need to verify less than if you were a complete stranger with no connection to the organization. Okay, so that's the power. Now, having said this, okay, that demonstrated this concept, the obvious thing here is that if you have a work history or you have something on your resume that you suspect that a lot of interviewers, they don't believe you, they don't swallow what you're basically offering about yourself, and you suspect that that's the reason why you're not getting callbacks and you're not getting job offers, this is yet another reason to consider networking as the vector, the method to get into that organization. Okay, now if you happen to be an introvert or you happen to be relocating to a region where you don't have any personal contacts, okay, you don't have friends in high places, you don't have a glittering circle of business connections or anything like this, okay, you can still do networking, and you do this by contacting the hiring managers and demonstrating firsthand that you have integrity, that you have the technical knowledge that you say you have by having a connection with them, by doing things like informational interviews and contacting them directly and then having them have an interaction with you. And I've done lots of videos on how to do this. There's a playlist that I will put in the description. Actually, let's see if I can follow my finger here. I will put a link to it right here now. So if you can click on that link, that'll take you to a playlist where I talk about that if you're interested in investigating that further. So hopefully that makes sense. Those are two things you can do: show, don't tell, and consider using networking as the vector into an organization instead of responding to job ads cold, where you're a complete stranger to them, they don't know you, and you're starting from scratch. Okay? Trust is, I hesitate to say earned, but even if you earn it by a personal recommendation, it's earned, it's not just given. So if this is an issue for you, consider trying those two things. Thank you very much for watching. Never forget, you are awesome, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.